positive things out of energy, some concern maybe out of environment, but Stephen Guilbeault, demoted in the federal cabinet, yet he still can't seem to help himself in criticizing and misrepresenting Alberta's oil and gas industry. So I heard you say we're going to give Prime Minister Carney 6 months, and I'm sure you will, to see if he's new and changed from his predecessor. What do you think of the cabinet announcements?
Well, I can tell you let me start with the positive, as I always try to. I have a reasonably good relationship with a few of the cabinet ministers, like Dominic LeBlanc, who I think it's good that he's at the table talking with our American counterparts. I know he's got a rapport with Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, and I think that's very positive as we move towards trying to get some resolution on tariffs with the U.S. I actually saw a story before I came on with you about how the federal government is dropping retaliatory tariffs. It seems like that's a measure of some goodwill in moving towards Canada-US free trade agreements. So I think that that's positive. Francois Philippe Champagne as finance minister, I think that's going to be important for us as well. He's been very supportive of a number of different industrial projects that we've had here, getting things like de Havilland, Dow petrochemical plant, Air Products to the finish line. So I think that he understands Alberta probably better than most ministers, and he understands the economic imperative of partnering. So I think that's good. And I hear good things about Tim Hodgson, who is the new energy minister. The industry has met with his appointment in very positive terms. His history is one of being a deal maker, and he even helped to finance the Alliance pipeline in the United States. So in a very difficult environment. So I think those are good indications. That being said, you still have a lot of the same faces at the table with a lot of the same bad policy that they're trying to defend from 9 years ago. Stephen Guilbeault is a prime example that he just can't stop mouthing off and misrepresenting our industry, implying that there's no future need for oil and gas, which is dead wrong. We know that there's going to be an increased need for our heavy oil. And sadly, the record of the replacement environment minister looks like she's been really a protege of his. And so who has the power at the cabinet table? Who has the power in the caucus room? It remains to be seen. So a little bit of good news and some concerning signs, but my job, I think, is to work to do whatever I can to get a better deal for Alberta. And so that's what I'll be focused on for the next 6 months.
All right. On that point, the minute the federal election was declared that the Liberals had won, there were calls for separation from a certain percentage of Albertans. And I know I've heard you say you certainly empathize with how they're feeling given the last decade, but you have stated very clearly you're not pro-separatist. The media often misquotes this, so while we're here together, I want to give you the opportunity to state on record what you're hearing and where you stand.
I can tell you I've never seen separatist sentiment this high. I've watched it over the years because it has always been roiling in the background. I think Alberta, the riding of Old Didsbury Three Hills, actually did elect a separatist at one point. Didn't last very long, but that shows you that it has gone up and it has gone down. And this is the highest I've seen it. Anytime you have 36% of the population expressing that sentiment, it can't be ignored. I'm just acknowledging that the frustration exists, but it is also my job, I believe, to make sure that we are able to get a better respect for our Alberta autonomy, sovereignty within a united Canada. That's one of the foundational principles of the party that I represent and the party that I lead, and I think it's my obligation to try to do that. But I don't disagree that people have very good reason to be frustrated, to have lost heart. But I really do want to see if we can make some strides over the next 6 months. I think there has been a bit of a change of approach. And if I'm unsuccessful, then I can only imagine that sentiment is going higher. My job is to make sure it doesn't. My job is to make sure we can cool it down because we get some respect from Ottawa and we get some of the repealing of the bad laws that have caused so much economic damage to our province.
Hey, speaking of that, totally off the cuff here, but you have started a lot of conversations across this country. One of them was on equalization. And I'm getting the impression from some of the articles that I'm reading, Canadians are starting to realize that there's a problem here, and that Quebec is treated a lot differently than many other provinces.
Well, I think one of the things that the equalization referendum that we did, and again, this is why we should trust the people. I think Albertans are pretty intuitive folks, and they chose by 62% to say equalization's broken, we should take it out of the Constitution. Now, we weren't successful on that, but boy, were we successful in starting that national conversation. So what I would say people are now agreeing on is that it is ludicrous for big provinces to get transfers from small provinces. That is, I think, sort of a foundational unfairness in the program. And so what I have led out with is Alberta, BC, Ontario, and Quebec are strong economies. They should be able to support themselves and should have the same equal per capita transfers. You should not be having Saskatchewan and Newfoundland and Labrador overpaying into the Federation so money can be transferred to Ontario and Quebec. That just doesn't make any sense. And so if we can start from that point of view of how do we equalize by treating the four big provinces the same, knowing that we probably have to transfer a little bit more to the smaller provinces on occasion because they have a less fiscal capacity and less economies of scale, that seems to be where the conversation is going. BC, Saskatchewan, and Newfoundland have expressed that frustration in the court by filing a lawsuit on the unfairness and trying to get a change there. So with any luck, we might be able to get some movement with this new government. And I'm glad to see that the pundits are now beginning to see just how unreasonable the program is. It just doesn't make sense anymore.